The drop pods screamed through the atmosphere of Tertius 7, their heat shields glowing white-hot as they descended toward the planet's savage surface. Inside Pod 47, Katniss gripped her harness straps with trembling fingers, her four eyes darting between the readouts that flashed increasingly dire warnings. Class 3 Deathworld, hostile megafauna, toxic flora, atmospheric electrical storms, survival rate 34%. This was supposed to be their final test at the Galactic Military Academy, a trial that separated the capable from the incapable, the living from the dead. Through the pod's communication system, she heard the terrified chittering of her Vrexian classmates, the clicking prayers of the insectoid creche, and the low, mournful songs of the crystalline shardburn. 200 cadets from 40 different species, all plummeting toward almost certain death. And then she heard Nox, "Woohoo! This is awesome." The human's voice crackled through the comm, filled with something that Katniss could only describe as excitement. "It's like that time I went camping in the Rockies. Man, I hope they have something like bears here." Earth bears were getting too easy. Katniss's translator must have malfunctioned. Surely the human hadn't just compared a Class 3 Deathworld to a recreational activity. The pod struck ground with bone-jarring force. Katniss stumbled out onto crimson soil, her breathing apparatus already working overtime to filter the planet's harsh atmosphere. Around her, the jungle loomed, trees with bark like razors, vines that writhed with predatory intent, and flowers that exhaled clouds of neurotoxin. She'd landed in a small clearing with 5 other cadets, Devrexians, a creche, a shardburn, and Nox. The human emerged from his pod stretching languidly, as if he'd just woken from a pleasant nap rather than survived a death-defying descent. He wasn't even wearing his full environmental suit, just the basic bodysuit, and a breather mask pushed up on his forehead. "Nox," Katniss hissed through her translator. "Protocols. You need full protection." The human glanced at his scanner, then at the jungle, and shrugged. "Nah, atmosphere's fine. Little heavy on the CO2, but nothing worse than Denver." "The toxins?" He plucked a bright purple flower and sniffed it, ignoring Katniss's gasp of horror. "Basically pepper spray. I've had worse at parties." Before anyone could respond, the jungle exploded with movement. A creature burst from the undergrowth, 12 feet of scaled muscle, multiple rows of crystalline teeth, and claws designed to shred titanium plating. The instructors had called them Ren Stalkers, apex predators. Kill on sight was the only recommended response. The cadets scattered, reaching for their issued survival weapons. Katniss fumbled with her plasma pistol, her hands shaking so badly she could barely find the safety release. Nox didn't reach for a weapon. He stepped forward, rolled his shoulders, and grinned. "Hey there, buddy," he said softly. The Ren Stalker lunged. Nox sidestepped with fluid grace, grabbed one of its massive forelimbs, and used its own momentum to flip the creature onto its back. It hit the ground with a thunderous crash, more surprised than injured. Nox placed a hand on its heaving chest. "Good boy. You're just territorial, aren't you?" "Yeah, we'll move along." "No problem." The predator stared at him with eyes that reflected alien confusion. Then, impossibly, it rolled to its feet, gave Nox what could only be described as a respectful nod, and melted back into the jungle. Katniss's translator had definitely malfunctioned. That, or reality had. Over the next 3 days, Katniss watched Nox treat the Class 3 Deathworld like what he kept calling spring break, a term her translator rendered as recreational period. He swam in rivers filled with flesh-eating microbes. He called it refreshing. Climbed trees whose sap could dissolve hull plating. He said it made great soap, and made friends with virtually every apex predator they encountered. When a pack of void wolves surrounded their camp on the second night, creatures that typically hunted in coordinated strikes that could take down armed squadrons, Nox simply walked into their midst, sat down, and started scratching one behind its ears. "They're just like dogs," he explained to the terrified cadets. "You just gotta show confidence and respect their space." By the 3rd day, Nox had essentially turned their survival camp into what he called a pretty decent camping trip. He'd built them a shelter from materials that were technically classified as biohazardous, started a fire using friction from plants that could explode under normal circumstances, and caught fish from a stream the planetary survey had labeled instant death. The fish, Katniss had to admit, were delicious. How? She finally asked him on their last night, watching as Nox played with a juvenile Ren stalker like it was a pet. How is none of this bothering you? Nox looked genuinely confused by the question. Bothering me? Katniss, Earth is a class for Deathworld. I grew up where literally everything is trying to kill you. Spiders, snakes, bears, big cats, tiny bacteria, plants, other humans, the weather. He gestured around. This place, it's beautiful. Clear rules. The predators are straightforward. Nothing here is passive-aggressive like a box jellyfish or sneaky like a mosquito. Earth is a class 4. Katniss's voice came out as a whisper. Yeah. Why do you think humans are the only species that volunteers for these exercises? Nox scratched the Ren stalker under its chin, producing a rumbling purr that shook the ground. Most species join the military for honor or duty or whatever. Humans, we do it because it's the only way we can legally visit planets that remind us of home. When the extraction ships arrived on day 7, they found all 200 cadets alive, a record that shocked the instructors. The other species emerged from their survival camps exhausted, traumatized, and forever changed. Nox emerged with a tan, a collection of cool rocks, and 3 juvenile Ren stalkers following him like puppies. Can I keep them? He asked the instructors. I'll take good care of them. They're already house-trained and everything. The instructors, who had been preparing speeches about courage and survival, simply stared. Katniss, watching Nox negotiate for pet privileges for creatures that could bite through starship hulls, finally understood something fundamental about humans. They hadn't conquered the galaxy through superior technology or strategic brilliance. They'd done it because, to them, the galaxy's most terrifying challenges were basically spring break. And somehow, that was the most terrifying realization of all. The end.